Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Power Man podcast. My name is Rory Paquette. I know you know that already. Folks, I just love to say that every once in a while to remind myself of how grateful and how lucky I am to be sitting in this chair. Ever since we went to 5 days a week on our podcast, you folks have, stepped up. The subscribing and the sharing and the liking and everything else has been great. I pushed it a little further and we went to 7 days a week because I thought you folks could take it. And man, did you. And the DMs just started to swell. So I really appreciate you guys. It's been absolutely magnificent. And if you're not out there doing what you're doing, I don't get to sit here and do what I'm doing. So I am eternally grateful for that. And hey, if you're a friend of the program, you know what time it is. Before we get rolling, we got to pay a couple of bills. So let me take a sip of my preferred beverage. Man, that is good stuff. And you guys all know what we're drinking. That's right. It's Freedom Hill Coffee at Freedom Hill Coffee on Instagram. Go check them out, look them up. Deep, dark, rich, bold, and beautiful, just like my wife. They brew a mean cup of joe. It's absolutely fantastic. They do all the right things for all the right reasons, and they support veterans, folks, which is one of the biggest reasons why we support them. If you're a veteran out there, and we have one on with us today, thank you for your service. I love you guys, and this is your home, and I'm glad you're here. Folks, Freedom Hill Coffee, at Freedom Hill Coffee on Instagram. Go check them out, look them up. Tell them Power Man sent you. Now, this guy's on fire. He's got so many things going on. I think I need two or three of these cups of coffee to keep up with him. So give me 1 second to get one more sip before we get rolling. That stuff is fantastic. Would not be able to do this without it. There you go. All right. So, hey, the guest today, absolutely awesome. He is, first of all, he's from Southern Indiana, which you guys all know makes him near and dear to my heart because we're in the same state. But he's a Christian. He's a husband. He's a father of three. He's a former Marine. He's a contractor, podcaster, business coach. He's an author. He's a competitive pistol shooter. So I better not tick him off today. Um, and he's the host of an awesome podcast I got a chance to listen to called Hammer and Grind podcast, built for contractors. He's also the author of The Contractor Profit Blueprint. I mean, wow, right? We have a lot to get to. Please welcome to the podcast, Brad Huebner. Brad, how you doing today, brother?
Rory, I am fantastic.
Yep. Oh, I just lost you for a second, and hey, he came back. All right, folks, just bear with us. We've had a couple little issues with our internet, but we're going to power through this. So, there he is, Brad. He's back. All right, beautiful, Brad. How you doing today, man?
I'm good. Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thanks, Rory,
All
for
right.
having me on.
Thanks a lot. Hey, we've got a lot of stuff that I just listed off. There's a whole lot to get to. Brad, why don't you start us off just by telling our audience, who is Brad Hebner? What are you about? What brings you here, man?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Just a Southern boy, even though most people don't consider Indiana as kind of Southern, but still have that kind of hick accent to classify as being a Midwestern Southern guy. But typical story, went to high school, didn't try, wasn't really interested in college. And so I was like, well, why not go into the Marines? So I did that for 4 years. Got out, didn't really know what I wanted to do, had a bunch of different jobs. And then let me back up for a second. When I was in high school, I took architectural drawing. I thought I wanted to be an architect, and that would actually help me out later on. So took the architectural drawing. I figured out that you actually have to have good grades to go into college and be an architect. So that kind of derailed that when the Marines got out. And then later on, after several jobs, several years, I found an opportunity to be a superintendent for a construction company, a local developer. And that's where that, architectural drawing experience came in, being able to read blueprints and understand what's going on. Fast forward, he had some trouble, went to work for one of our subs as a carpenter, learned carpentry. And then after working for him a couple of years, had a chance to start my own business. So I started doing that, struggled for many, many, many years, got some coaching along the way. Through the process of getting coaching, fell in love with coaching. And then that kind of ignited that spark of wanting to be a coach myself. And so after a couple of years of that, I started my own coaching business and the podcast at the same time. And then, yeah, that's how we got to where we are now.
Awesome, awesome. The coaching business, it when I first heard about it, it's a little unique in terms of, what your niche is, so to speak. Who is it you coach and what do you coach them on?
But mostly remodelers, general contractors, and landscapers. And that may seem kind of odd, but it's anyone who works with that deals with larger projects that have longer sales cycles, that have more moving parts. Because what I teach mostly is marketing, sales, uh, pricing, making sure you're getting the right, profits. Obviously, the contractor profit blueprints about making money. We talk about mindset. We talk about systems. So I help contractors with the business side of their business. We never talk about what's the best way to, install a wall or best way to pour concrete. We never talk about the trade part of it. It's all just strictly business.
Love it. And it's funny because folks who are really good at their businesses, at doing the business, are not always very good at like running it and owning it and that type of thing. Am I right?
That's 100% true. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's an interesting, I don't have a true statistics on this, but people who come into the construction industry with no experience, like some doctor just decides one day he wants to start an electrical company. Those people that haven't been on the tools generally do better in terms of success than the guys who were on the tools and then started their own business. And the reason is because there's a transition between, I call it the craftsman, the businessman. There's a transition that has to happen. And being really, really good at building something does not mean that you're really, really good at building a business. Right. And so
Right.
there's a bit of a disconnect. And the people that don't know how to do the work themselves, the craft, they have to rely on other people. And so for them, they have to find solutions, whether it be through other people or third party, to solve all those problems. Where most craftsmen, anytime there's a problem on the job site, they want to run right out there and interject themselves in there to quote, save the day. And that just really keeps them stuck in that process.
Yeah, I totally understand. When you start to work with these folks, are they at first resistant to that idea? Because it's like, hey, I know how to do the job, so don't tell me how to run the business type of thing.
No, I mean most people that are coming to me, they've already had struggles. Like they want to get off the tools.
Ah,
They're looking for the path forward. And so there is a mindset element to it for sure. And so one of the things that we work on a lot in the program and my coaching and the book is mindset, because that's a big proponent of it. And so that is there is kind of it's interesting when I see when contractors come into the program and I work with them for a year and a half, 2 years, and I kind of see them grow through the process. It's exciting for me, one, to see them kind of transition, but there is always like this aha moment for them, somewhere in that process where they're like, I finally get it. Like I didn't fully understand it when I first started, but now I get it, like why that's so important. And so that's the fun part, to see that transition happen for these guys.
nice. You said that you work with marketing. Now, is a lot of that social media based or with contractors? Are you dealing with, some other kind of advertising?
So in terms of marketing, I don't do like paid ads or anything, me personally. Most of the marketing that I talk about is going to be like holistic style, social media, networking, vehicle wraps, branding. It's more of the things that like you should be doing in your business. I actually have a marketing expert that's part of the program, and he kind of talks about the marketing, kind of works on that aspect of it. And then if they want services, he can provide the advertising side of it. But most of the marketing is like, you got to have a strong brand. You need to join a BNI group or go into networking. You need to develop a very good sales process that is part of the marketing. What does your website look like? What's the blogs that you're putting on there? Those types of marketing things are really more of what I kind of get into.
Excellent. Excellent. So, how do these guys find you?
Believe it or not, TikTok. Most of them find me on TikTok.
Really? You're a TikTok guy.
Yeah, surprised me a lot. But the majority of my leads come from TikTok. Now I do have the podcast that you mentioned,
Mhm.
and so I do get some leads from the podcast. But the majority of my leads actually come from TikTok.
Wow, that's awesome. I mean, if you don't mind me asking, I just haven't seen you on TikTok. What kind of content are you putting up on TikTok that's getting you noticed?
Oh, I put all kinds of stuff. Usually it's very controversial, very polarizing kind of content because that does very well.
Interesting. I was going to say, you and I are not the type of guys that you would think would succeed on TikTok. We just don't have that look, you know? But I mean, power to you. I love that it's working.
I like 2021 when it before it really took off. And so we had a really good run in the beginning. I think at one time, like in January, like a 2 month period, I added like 10,000 followers. I mean, it was just like crazy numbers. And so that really helped me because there's other coaches on TikTok, but none of them can hit, the kind of numbers that I'm hitting on there. And that's just because of timing. Like if there's
Hmm.
ever a case to be made for, timing of marketplace and that matters, that's me for TikTok for sure.
Wow. I mean, that's great. I love to hear that. Okay, so this is your coaching program for these guys. Now, do you start with the contractor profit blueprint? Is that like a starting point for folks, or is that a, more of a lead generation, get people involved kind of introduction?
Well, the book is kind of, I mean, it is a lead, a lead magnet, a lead
Sure.
tool, but the book is written kind of that follows the process that I teach. And so the book's written, it's really broken down into four steps, if you will. And that's essentially kind of how my program is. So step one is actually I call it 7-figure mindset mastery. If you ever want to, break through that ceiling of, getting to 7 figures or beyond, it really is a mindset problem. And so we really have to work on that aspect of it because one of the things that I talk about is charging more. I can just tell you and all your listeners, I can guarantee without even knowing anything about your business, you need to charge more. You're charging more than you are. And so if you don't believe that you can charge more, then you're never going to be able to charge more. Right. And so like that mindset part really plays into that. So number one is a 7-figure mindset mastery. Number two is pricing for big profits. That's where we're talking about really making sure our prices are correct. Number three is going to be accelerate your sales. And that's really marketing and sales together because those two go hand in hand. And then the fourth step is systems for growth and freedom. And that's where we start really figuring out where we can implement systems, processes, SOPs to really start streamlining the process.
Hmm.
That's the main four steps. That's what the book's broken into, but that's also how my program is set up.
Nice. Okay. The podcast then, how does that play into your business strategy and how you use it?
The podcast is interesting. Whenever I had a business partner early on, and really it was just he was a he was a contractor out in California, and we're like, hey, let's just start a podcast. Like that was the goal, was just to start a podcast. He's a very eye personality. If you know the disc profiles, he's very outgoing, very energetic, kind of the opposite of me. And so we knew there would be a good synergy there on the podcast. And so we started the podcast with no plans whatsoever of doing coaching. It was just going to be a podcast. And then within like 3 weeks of launching the podcast, people in our networks were like, why don't you just start your own coaching program? And so we're like, I don't know, why don't we? And we just launched the program. And so we just started doing a coaching program. And initially it was just like a sales training only. And then we kind of branched into more of a, whole business coaching. Now, that first year, at the end of the year, because we launched it in March, at the end of that year, my business partner was like, I want to go a different way. I just want to focus on sales. I don't want to talk about the other stuff. And so we decided to split ways. And he's like, you can keep the podcast, keep the branding, all that stuff. You have my blessings. I'm just going to go do my thing. And that really opened the door for me to actually start doing coaching full time. Because at the time, I was still running my construction business. And so it was really a split in the road. And it was a tough choice, honestly. But it was like, I can do coaching or I can do my business. I really can't focus on both at the same time. And so I chose the coaching route and never looked back.
Wow, and that's amazing. So you're a full-time coach now. That's your full-time job.
I've been doing it full time for 3 years. Yeah.
Congratulations, man. I love when people can make that transition.
It
So
wasn't easy.
congrats.
It,
I'm sure.
there was a lot of conflict. I mean, a lot of prayers, a lot of conversations with the wife. My wife is actually the one that encouraged me to do that, to try it out. And you know, whenever you're going through things, nothing makes sense, right? But then when you look back, you're like, oh, that makes perfect sense. Like that was God's plan the whole time. That that lined up, this lined up, all these things happened, and I mean, I truly believe that that's what happened in my business. And so the opportunity, if my business partner didn't want to do something different, then we were splitting profits, so there wasn't enough money there for us to really do it full time. That happened. I had a couple guys leave my construction business right at the end of the year, timing wise. And so, like, it was just this perfect timing of things that had to happen
Hmm.
for me to be able to do this. And my wife's like, why don't you just shut your business down, your construction business down for a few months, like 3 months, do the coaching full time and see what happens. You can always start your construction business back up. I said, you're right, I can. So I put it on pause, put the construction on pause, did the coaching for 3 months, and I never went back to the construction business.
That's a great way to do it. That's a great plan. So that's awesome that your wife, supported you like that. I don't get to hear that in the story very often. So has she supported this whole move from the beginning?
Yeah, my wife, she was when I started my construction business the first time we were dating, and she supported me then. So my wife's like Superwoman. Like you talk about married up. Like I married up multiple levels.
Nice. That always helps when you outkick your coverage and you have a wife like that. So that's beautiful, man. And I know how important that is in the overall scheme of things in the daily battle. So congratulations on that. The it says that you're a father of three too, so you got three kids, huh?
I do. Yeah. I unfortunately went through a divorce. I got married right out of the Marines,
Uh,
which was a mistake, but I ended up with two daughters through that first marriage. And then my current wife, we have a son together.
okay, cool. All right. Well, hey, three kids is quite the accomplishment as well, man. How
Well,
old are they?
what's interesting is my yeah, my oldest daughter is 28,
Oh wow.
believe it or not. My youngest daughter is 24, and my son just turned 9 on Sunday.
Boy, that's a gap.
So I
There
have
you
a
go. That's cool.
18 like an 18-year gap between the oldest and youngest.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm an empty nester, man. All of mine are grown, so I feel for you. I wish one of mine was still nine. I think that'd be great. I miss those days.
Well, now you got grandkids coming, right? Soon, hopefully.
I hope so. Yeah,
Start
that's
over.
that's the idea, right? Absolutely. All right. So now with the construction business, did you just close that up and leave it, or did you sell it to somebody or farm it out? What'd you end up doing with the current business?
Well, initially I didn't know what was going to happen. So I kept everything. I kept all my equipment. I kept the website up. I kept the phone number on. I mean, I was still getting calls. But then after a couple years, obviously, if not no plans of going back, I really didn't know what to do with it. And then I had an opportunity last year for a young man that moved to the area, and he wanted to start his own business, but he didn't know if he was going to stay. He might move back to Michigan. He didn't know what was going on. I said, well, why don't you, if you want to start your own business, why don't you just start my business back up? We'll work out an equity deal. Like you're going to run the business. I already got the branding, all the equipment. I can restart the the marketing. And so he agreed to that. So he started that up last year, and unfortunately, he struggled. Like he struggled a lot. And at the end of the year in December, he decided he was going to move back to Michigan with his wife. So at that point, I was like, well, we're going to fully exit it. I sold off, the assets. I sold off the phone number. I sold off a bunch of the a customer list, all that stuff to a friend of mine who owned another company locally. I just sold everything off to him.
Hmm. All right. Good deal. Good deal. You love to see that kind of come to fruition that way, at least. You know what I mean? In terms of and not just closing it up and walking away. You put all that into it and you get something out of it in the end. That's a good deal.
Yeah, it was an interesting, like I said, totally a God thing. I would not have closed the business down. I would have kept growing it.
Hmm.
It's just an opportunity presented to start coaching. I have a lot more passion for coaching. It's great when you remodel a bathroom and the customer's like, "Oh, Brad, you're amazing. You guys are great. Everything looks amazing." That's a great feeling. After like 3 days, it's gone. Now I get people texting me saying, "You completely changed my life, right? You've completely changed my business," and so that is like on steroids, a much better feeling for me. And so even though and it's funny, someone asked me this the other day, I still want to like do construction. Like I'm thinking maybe I should start another construction company. Maybe I should, be a home builder. Maybe I should do this because there's lots of things I want to do. Uh, but it's just a division of time and my energy. And so I really have to stay focused on the coaching because we're still growing, we're still building this up, we're still trying to make it better and better every day. So this is where my focus has to stay right now.
Yeah, no, I can appreciate that completely. The If I can go back to the podcast for just a minute, you took over the podcast from your partner.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of took himself out of it, and so now you get to
Yep.
run the whole thing. Do you use your podcast as a marketing arm? Is it just a credibility piece, branding? What is it you use that for, and how does it work with the rest of the business model?
Yeah, both. I mean, it's all the above.
Okay,
I actually had a call today with the contractor that found me on the podcast, and he signed up for coaching.
nice.
So initially it was just going to be like, let's just have a conversation and then monetize it. Like through advertising. Like let's just make
Sure.
a second source of income through monetizing. But after my partner left, and then I started doing the podcast alone, it turned into more of an education. Like, let's use it as a lead gen type of product for the coaching business,
Right.
and it has worked. A lot of guys. It's interesting if someone calls me and says, I found your podcast. I've been binge listening to like, every episode for the last 3 weeks. Like I know they're probably going to sign up for coaching because they're consuming the content, right? And so it does act as a lead gen for sure. But it's also just an educational piece. Now, this year, I've been focusing more on interviews. The last couple years, it was just straight solo cast where I'm just like talking about topics.
Right.
Right, here's how to be a leader. Here's how to price stuff like that. But this year, I've been focusing more on guests and bringing people on with different backgrounds, CPAs, marketers. I interviewed a doctor last week who focuses it on betrayal. And I'm like, there's a lot of guys I know on blue collar that have a lot of childhood trauma and things like that. This would be a good topic for them to listen to. So
Yeah.
I try to space it out and find interesting guests on different topics, but I still sprinkle in some solo cast there of like get off the tools, do some marketing, sales, stuff like that.
Nice. Nice. All right. Um, as you have put this whole thing together, it looks like it's working really well for you. You seem very, very happy and content with doing it. Um, is it all one-on-one coaching with you and whoever is signed up with you, or do you do group stuff, or do you have coaches who work under you at this point?
So I'm not a huge proponent of like having, I'm not trying to scale this and to have like 80 coaches working on it. That's not me. This is more, it's more of a lifestyle kind of coaching than it is let's build this up into a huge business with tons of people underneath me. I'm not saying that's not ever going to happen. So to answer your question, it's really a hybrid approach. There is classroom work, trainings. There are weekly coaching calls that are group calls with other people. There is a community aspect to it. We have a Facebook group, and then we also have WhatsApp channels where guys are talking. And then there's also some one-on-one, me and them in the beginning for the first 90 days to really help them, solve all of those problems and get them pointed in the right direction. So it's really a combination. I call it a hybrid of kind of all of the best practices. And I built the program to be one that I wanted because when I was getting coaching, I was in some different programs and the information was really good, but the delivery method and the how they executed on it was not very great. And so I'm like, if I'm going to start my own coaching program, I'm going to solve that problem and build this program for the one that I would want to go through.
Nice. I coach podcasters, and I know that very often the thing that you're coaching is not the only thing you end up coaching. In trying to help these guys with their businesses
Oh yeah,
and working on mindset and everything else, do you end up sort of almost being a life coach in a lot of ways?
absolutely. Yeah. There's a saying in coaching, it's like, sell them what they want, give them what they need.
Yeah,
Right. So there's some truth in that. If somebody comes in as like, man, I really, really need help with sales. Like I just got to get better at sales. Okay. I'll teach you how to do sales. No problem. But what's really going on behind the scenes is that they don't believe that they can sell jobs, or there's some kind of mindset block. There's some limiting belief there. And so now it's like, I'm gonna give you sales. I promise that. But first we're gonna fix your mindset. Right. And
right.
it's kind of hard. Like nobody wants to like work on mindset. It's not sexy. It's not something people want to think about, they need to do, but it is something that is a major block for a lot of people. I've had, conversations. I've had guys text me like, "Hey, Brad, you got 10 minutes? I'm really struggling with a situation with my business partner or my dad, who's also the owner." And I'm like, "Yeah, man, we'll jump on a quick call." And he's like, "I'm dealing with this, this, and this." And that's really more of that kind of life coach you're talking about, where it's not really business related. It's more relationship related kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. But now, does that add to it for you, or is that something that you kind of have to put up with to get the job done?
I enjoy it too. Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
enjoy the personal relationships. I mean, I see it. I see the same ads every day that everybody else, your listeners, see on Facebook, and it gets nauseating after a while. Where it's like, if you're a contractor, and I'll fix your whole business, and it's like I get annoyed by those, right? And so it can seem it can seem like, oh, you're just another guru slash coach, and it's like I can't prove to you really, but I genuinely do care about my guys, and I want, and girls too, but I want to make sure that you truly are successful. And so for me, it's really about the individual relationship, not just a bunch of numbers. And so I don't add very many clients. Like I don't have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of clients. I usually don't take on more than like 5 a month at the most,
Oh, wow.
because I want to make sure that the quality is there, that we can execute on the back end and deliver that experience.
That's awesome. Do you have a pretty set coaching program, or is it, tailored to everybody individually in terms of what they need?
The program is pretty set, but the one-on-one coaching is where we get into the customized aspect of it.
Gotcha. So, if you don't mind me asking, we do have a whole bunch of contractors and blue collar guys listening today, and I just know that from my audience, and the feedback that I get. If any of these guys are interested in talking with you, do you want to tell them a little bit about what the program is? I mean, you've mentioned some things, in terms of some calls and stuff, but is it a 4 week deal? Is it a 12-week deal? And if that's personal information and you don't want to give away the secret sauce, I totally understand. But I don't know, share a little bit with
No,
them.
no, it's yeah, no, it's most of it is on my website. They can go look and see the stuff that I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
But I have 3 different programs. The top line, which I'll tell you, most people don't qualify for. That's really for like people that are really trying to take their business. That because that involves me coming to your location,
Oh,
a couple times a year. I mean, it's one on one. Like it's very, 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 very. But that's pretty expensive program. I'm not gonna lie. The Profit Club, which is my main program, that's like my flagship program. That is what pretty much what I just described. That's going to be coursework. It's going to be coaching calls every week, group calls. It's going to be some one on one. And there's also the WhatsApp. We have a WhatsApp community, group chats, and all that. That is designed, and even the contractor profit blueprint, like the whole blueprint is designed to be able to go through in 90 days. So it's kind of set up like a 90-day program.
okay.
However, the whole coaching is for a year. So when you join, you're in for 12 months. You get 12 months access. the reality of it is, and just well, I want to be straight with you and your listeners. The 90-day program is very doable, but it's an aggressive timeline. And so
Okay.
what usually happens is they come in, they're completely overwhelmed with the amount of information. And it takes about 3 to 6 months before they really start realizing I have to start implementing this. So what it ends up being is the client is taking longer than they should. And so it ends up being like a 6 month, 3 to 6 months before they really start going at it hardcore. That makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Nice.
um, there's different levels of success. Some people come in right away and have major success. Some people it takes them 6 months. I've had guys that really don't even start implementing things until a year in. They're like, okay, I've been in a year. I probably should start doing stuff now. I'm like, yeah, you probably should. And then they start implementing. You know what I mean? So like
Right.
everyone's on a different timeline. Obviously, if you're working 70, 80 hours a week right now on the tools, adding another 5 to 10 hours a week of work is probably not going to be very fun. And so that may take you a little bit longer to make that transition. Other people are already off the tools. They have, staff, they have field guys, they have teams. And for them, it's just a matter of making a few tweaks, but in a better sales process, they have more time available to work on the business. So everyone's at a different point. And so it's hard to say like, oh, you're going to have great success in 90 days because that's everyone's different. What I can tell you is that pretty much everyone that comes in the program, they will get their money back, their investment within the first 2 months. And that's like worst case scenario.
That's a pretty big statement. Yeah, that's awesome.
I have guys that make their money back on the next job they sell, like within a week of signing up. Because that's why the pricing is very early because you come in, we look at your pricing, you're not charging enough. Like I said earlier, I can guarantee you most of your listeners are not charging enough.
Sure.
And so when we start charging, which by the way is gonna like scare the crap out of you on how much it is. But once you do that, you instantly just add, you know, money into your bank account. And that's where you can get those massive returns early on.
Nice. Nice. Well, I love what you're doing, and I love the way you're doing it. I do have to digress for a minute because if I didn't ask you about this, then I wouldn't be doing my job. But competitive pistol shooter.
Yeah.
All right. So exactly what does that mean
Oh
for those
yeah.
of us who
Love
are
it.
not competitive pistol shooters? Fill us in on what that is. It sounds like you're aiming at a target or something. So tell us all about it.
It is. Yeah. We're not shooting people. I do you remember that show Top Shot that was on maybe a decade ago? Did
Vaguely.
you ever see that show? It was on Discovery. I think it was on Discovery.
Yeah.
There was a show called Top Shot. And I think it was on Discovery. And it was like all of these best shooters from around the world. They come on here and they have all these challenges, right? Different guns, old guns, revolvers, air, like all kinds of weapons. And I started watching that show and they were introducing these guests and they were saying like, this guest here is a 4-time IPSC champion, and this guy here is a 6-time USPSA. And I was like, what are they talking about? Like, I don't, what are these numbers and letters? So I started researching it. Turns out there's organized competitive pistol shooting. And so I started looking into it. And sure enough, locally where I live, there's clubs that do that. And so there's a guy that I knew was at the club. I called him up. I said, hey, what's this all about? He said, oh, yeah, if you're interested. Went out there. This was in 2016 was when I first started shooting, and then got addicted to it and then been doing it ever since. So I've been shooting, I don't know, what, a little over 8 years now. But what it is basically is just I shoot what's called IDPA. It's International Defensive Pistol Association, and it's set up as like a um, real world scenario kind of. And so you go onto a stage, and they have it set up with props and cardboard targets, but it's not like you're just standing at a line and shooting a target. They're all over the place. So they may have, car like little legitimate cars on the range, and they'll have a target behind, like the passenger window, and you got to like shoot through the driver's side window, through the passenger window at this cardboard target. And they have all kinds of stuff, and
Wow.
it's scenario based to where it's like, hey, you're sleeping, you hear a bump in the night, you got to get out of bed and defend your house. And so like you start like laying in a bed, and you got your pistol like in a nightstand. So they beep the target, they have a timer, they beep it, you get up, you grab your pistol, load it, and then you go shoot the stage, and they time you and score you, and then you compete that way. You're competing with a bunch of other shooters. It's a blast. I love
Wow.
it.
I mean, it sounds like that would take a while to get a bunch of contestants through that kind of testing.
I mean, if you're doing I shot a match 2 weekends ago in Illinois. If you know where Sparta, Illinois
Yeah.
is,
Yep.
it's out in the middle of nowhere. It has the World Shooting Complex, the World Recreational Shooting Complex. It's a huge complex. But it was a Illinois state match there like 2 weeks ago. It was like 95 degrees, absolutely miserable. And that's an all day shoot. So you start shooting at like 8 o'clock in the morning, you get done about 4 p.m. So and that's like 12 stages. You're shooting 12 different stages.
Wow.
So it's a time commitment for sure.
That's a long time to hold your focus on something like that.
What's funny is that if you're only shooting for about 20 seconds
Okay. Per event? Is that how that works?
per stage.
Per
Yeah.
stage. And how
Yeah.
many stages do you go through in a day?
That one was I think there were 11
Oh,
stages on
wow.
that one.
Wow.
So
All
you're
right.
only shooting maybe 2 to 3 minutes. Like actual shooting is 2 to 3 minutes. The rest of the time you're pasting targets, because after you shoot, the next guy is going to shoot, but they put stickers on the targets so that it's basically like shooting a fresh target.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of just support throughout the match. But I mean, I've shot out of school buses. I've shot moving targets, standing on moving platforms, laying down, shooting under vehicles. I mean, I've done just about every possible scenario that you can think of. And because the beauty of it, Roy, is that every stage is totally different.
Hmm.
You're never shooting the exact same stage.
Sounds fascinating, man. Really does. And is this, I mean, did you learn how to do that in the military or were you a gun, lover before that?
Never shot a gun. I think I shot one time before I went in the Marines. Turns out I'm pretty much a natural at it. When I went to boot camp on pre-qualification day, and you guys that are listeners out of the Marines will know this, but when you go to the rifle range, you have a pre-qualification day, and then you shoot qualification day. On the pre-qual day, I had the third best time out of the entire company. So like out of I don't know what it was, like 900 people, I had like the third best time, and that was the first time ever shooting a rifle in my life. And then, so that was kind of the beginning of that. And then I actually throughout the Marines, they have requalification. So I was expert qualifier on those. But then I had a chance to go to marksmanship school and learn how to be an instructor. So I was actually a range coach, what they call a range coach for marksmanship. So like teaching other people how to shoot pistols and rifles and stuff. But other than that, I just was always a natural at it. And so whenever I watched Top Shot and I learned about it, I started shooting and I quickly became state championships. I've won some regionals and all that stuff. The best I've finished, although I don't think it was my best, but the best I've ever finished was I got 10th place at the world championships.
Wow. I mean, that's nine people in the world better than you. That's pretty good.
It's a little, yeah. I mean, it's whoever shows up. You know what I mean? Like there may be 50 better shooters that didn't show up for the match, but at that match, yeah, there were nine better shooters. Yeah.
I see. All right. Well, you can downplay it all you want, but marksmanship like that is not common. So,
That's with pistol, by the way. I didn't mention that's shooting with a pistol. Um, so that's
okay.
all pistol based.
All right. Do you find that's harder to shoot than the rifle?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's much harder.
For accuracy, especially? Yeah. I've
Yeah,
lost you for a
it's
minute
much
there,
harder
Brad.
to shoot with the pistol. So there's a lot more. Oh, yeah, it's much harder with the pistol. There's a lot more practice that has to go into it. They do have a division called PCC, which is pistol caliber carbine. So you're shooting a pistol round, but it's like basically an AR-15, a rifle
Yeah.
platform, but you're shooting pistol rounds. And so that match I just shot in Illinois 2 weeks ago, I have a PCC, so I was actually shooting the PCC division in that match.
Nice. Nice. Well, I appreciate you sharing that, with us too. I mean, it's not all about work, right? So
No, that's hey, that's what it's about, having fun.
that's right. If you don't mind me asking, and feel free to say, "Hey, I don't want to talk about this," but several times you've mentioned God told you to do this, or He put you in that particular position. Is it sounds like your faith is pretty important to
Yeah, it is. I mean, I grew up. We went to church. It was definitely very important to me when I went into the Marines. So I had some really serious challenges while I was in there. God saved my life in there. So yeah, it's throughout my whole life. It's been very important. I can't sit here and tell you that like I've been the best, follower of Christ my whole life, but it's still always been the center of, the decisions I make and that type of stuff.
you. Yeah. No, I'm glad to hear it. We don't get to talk about that enough. And sometimes when people come on podcasts, they're worried about mentioning it. And, we don't do that here. So I just wanted to make sure you had a chance to talk about it if it was something you wanted to. So that's a good deal.
When I started a construction business, I went to SCORE counseling. You've probably heard of it. It's like your local SCORE is it's like a give back mentorship program, right? And I met with these two older gentlemen who were businessmen, and I have in my core values, faith. Like our business core values was like faith, integrity, professionalism. And one of the guys was like, I would take that out of there. I would take that faith part out of your mission statement or your core values because that's really, some people are going to frown upon that. And I just looked at him and said, no, I'm not doing that. I mean, that's part of it. Like if that offends somebody, that's their problem, not mine. Turns out I would get a lot of clients who would tell me because I had in my bio, I had what church I went to, you know, activities and stuff. People that you go to this church. I saw you're a member of this church, and so yes, you might isolate some people in business because of that, but if they're that offended or that turned off because of your faith, do you really want to work with them anyways?
Right. Right. Well, wonderfully said. I appreciate you, answering that question. So thank you for that. Sometimes people want to talk about it and sometimes they don't, but I appreciate you, rising to the occasion and jumping in
Yeah,
there. Yeah, for sure.
absolutely. I'm an open book.
No, I love it. I mean, we've suffered through a couple of technological issues today. I really appreciate you pushing through. Hopefully, I will be able to edit a whole bunch of those out of there. But honestly, I've been able to hear everything you said really, really well, and so I really do appreciate it. I want to give you a chance just to kind of make sure that we're getting your message out there, though, brother. And so, as we kind of wrap things up a little bit here, thank you so much for your time, for coming on the show, and for telling everybody about what it is you do, which I think is pretty unique. Is there anything I didn't ask you? Is there anything that we talked about you want to double down on a little bit, or any maybe last piece of advice or last nugget you want to leave with the audience? I'm going to give you the floor for a couple minutes. It's all yours, brother. Go ahead.
No, I appreciate the opportunity to come on here, Rory, and talk to your guest. I love talking business, whether it's with a client or just on TikTok or whatever. I love talking about business. I love the construction aspect, but I do want to mention this. I know I see this every single day. There's a lot of guys out there who are silently suffering in their business. Whether it's because they're not charging enough, because they haven't figured out how to hire the right people or get the right clients. There's a lot of really good people who are trying to provide for their family and do right by their clients, but they're just missing a couple things, in their business. But their ego, their pride is keeping them from asking for help. And I get it. I was that guy. I suffered in my business for 9 years. It was 9 years before I got a coach. And so like I missed out on a lot. And so whether it's me or anyone, I don't care. I would just encourage your listeners to don't try to go about this alone because you're trying to prove to someone else that you can do it. Like everyone I know who is very successful in life has some type of mentor, coach, trainer. They all have someone that helps them through this. And I would just say, don't suffer quietly because you're afraid that it's going to make you look bad or make you look inferior. Like I've have many coaches. I've spent lots of money on coaching and therapists and all of that. Like stop suffering and go get help somewhere. That's my final message.
That's a great message to end on. That really is. I appreciate you putting that out there for guys, and I could not agree with you more, to be honest. Too often, I think we do that in all areas. We just suffer in silence like that. So,
Yeah,
great message, Brad. Appreciate it very much, man. All
absolutely.
right. Christian, husband, father of three, former Marine, contractor, podcaster, business coach, author, competitive pistol shooter, which is pretty cool, and host of the Hammer and Grind podcast, built for contractors, Brad Hebner. And you did mention something about coupon code or something maybe for that contractor profit blueprint. Is that something you still want to do?
Yeah, absolutely. All of your listeners can get the ebook version of this for free. We'll have a coupon code power, and I'm sure I'll give you that information. You could probably put in the show notes or whatever. But
Of course.
when you go to the checkout, which will have the link, but when you go to the checkout, just put the promo code power in there, and you should get the ebook for free. If you want to get the paperback, you can always add that, but you can get the free ebook, and it's delivered right to your email, and you can start reading right away.
Perfect. Love that. And thank you for that on behalf of all the listeners. I appreciate you offering that. Brad Hebner, thank you, man, for coming in and doing everything you did and keep doing what you're doing, man. We need more of it.
I appreciate you, Roy. Thanks for letting me on here, and yeah, thank you so much.
All right. Folks, that's another awesome episode of the Power Man podcast. And the reason we bring powerful men like this on here with powerful messages is because, we're united in being behind you and taking back your power so that you can be a better protector, better provider, better leader tomorrow than you are today, so that you can be a better father, better husband, a better man tomorrow than you are today. Folks, like Brad said, don't suffer in silence. The reason we don't want you to do that is because you have value. It's because you matter. And at some point, you just have to believe it. Until next time.